What leaps to mind when I think of Karen is her profound combination of knowledge, wisdom, kindness, caring, that made her kind of an anchor for the youth development movement.
Karen has a way of being able to take what she believes in and build on it. So I've known her for 33 years at least. And her message, the center of it is still the same. It just grows.
Karen, of course, in her inimitable way, created the bumper sticker that a lot of us in the field started using, which is problem-free is not fully prepared, and got us all thinking about what does it mean to prepare young people for productive adulthood.
I heard the term problem-free is not fully prepared, and then added later, fully prepared is not fully engaged. It really resonated with me as a practitioner.
This idea of readiness as central to the kinds of ways we think about young people, their futures, their success, the impact we want to have.
She also has a great affiliation with using alliteration. And so we all began to not only speak to problem-free is not fully prepared, but also had mantras like caring, competence, and confidence.
Those are Karen Pittman isms that have struck with us, and sort of that we will carry that forward for forever. And I think those are ideas that are very hard to articulate, that Karen's articulated and also operationalized with the Forum for Youth Investment.
The concept of investing in children and youth was not nearly as common and accepted as it is today. Spending money on kids and youth was an expense. It was a cost. It was not an investment. I'd call it a transformational reframing, a change in perspective that makes a big difference.
Her work has not just been conceptual and not just ideas, but helping to create the infrastructures that need to be accountable for those ideas.
Karen is a great thinker and a great visionary. She really intuitively understood the importance of relationships and intuitively understood and scientifically the importance of going beyond problems and thinking about assets and thriving. And at the same time, she's evolved in ways that have never lost those great insights and those North Stars that have deepened it for all of us.
When I think about what Karen singularly has contributed in the last at least decade, since I've worked with her very closely, I would use the phrase whole child development. Karen believes in that. She has taken all the principles and the research around positive youth development, and she's been a part of putting it in that package, which translates it to people who are not as familiar with positive youth development and with out of school time and our contributions.
What we know in the science of learning and development is how much relationships matter. And Karen reminds us that every single adult has a chance to be a powerful force in a child's life. And she reminds us that that doesn't only happen in school, it can happen all over communities, on ball fields, in lots and lots of different places, and that every adult needs to stand up for a child that way.
What I think that Karen did, which was so interesting, is she always stayed very connected to the youth, but she was able to bring their concepts to scale. And I think what's resonated with the after-school intermediaries is that she was very patient about thinking about our systems, how they interconnected with other systems.
Karen is everything. She knows about issues about young people, about youth, in a broad way, but also a deep way. She's one of these rare persons who sits kind of on the line in both directions. One, the academic kind of expert kind of side, and the capacity and the commitment to make things happen.
It's not surprising that she was trained in sociology. She was trying to convey to a group of 13, at times disparate cabinet level secretaries and staff, representative staff, that we need to think about the different environments that kids nest in. And you all impact those environments and come up with a coherent and cogent strategy that we could advance. And she was relentless in that regard. I think we all know that, that strength that she brings. But she was strategic. She was keenly analytical in how she thought about moving that agenda forward.
The changing the odds conversation shifts the lens and really, shifted the lens for me. As soon as you talk about changing the odds, you have to put responsibility on everybody within the ecosystem to self-reflect and say, does this system work for youth in our country?
For Karen, education is everywhere, and ways to care about children come from everywhere, from every part of the community. Not just from schools, after school, youth serving organizations, the way in which kids interact in families, in communities, so that holistic vision of supporting and developing young people is what Karen's been talking about for a very long time, and now everybody's talking about it.
Karen has really, I think, pushed me and all of us to really think about the ecosystem and what it means to think ecosystemically and make concrete the idea of putting students, not systems, at the center, and how do you operationalize that. I will never think of the word quadrant quite the same as I do now. But I think that it is an issue that is long past due, but time hopefully has come and based on a lot of Karen's leadership.
If I look at juvenile justice work right now, and I think about even child welfare work, it's permanency, safety, and well-being. And well-being was an afterthought in many places. With positive development, well-being has equal standing to safety and permanence, because without it, our kids don't have a future. Juvenile justice thinks now about how we run probation systems without formally bringing kids into the system. And that's by putting them in that nesting environment in the community with their peers and others to give them supports in their community that can help them thrive. So I think that's one long-lasting legacy that Karen has brought, is to help us reframe our thinking around supporting our young people in a positive way.
Karen has taught me and all of us who work in this field so much about the fact that children and young people learn everywhere, all the time, from everyone. And so what we surround them with and who we surround them with always matters. And it's critical that we're always being thoughtful about how those contexts and those relationships are helping them to become the people that they can be.
Karen is a connector. And she has been in this field a long time, leading us, and the work that she will continue to do will be a connector. She can't help herself. She knows how to get people into the room and making very complex thoughts and making them accessible to everyone. There are things that are really important to young people: environmental justice, racial justice, equal rights for everyone. And I think Karen, in all of her presentations, she talks about that boldly and has really laid the foundation for us to continue that work.
Karen, more than anyone I know, is the embodiment of inclusivity. And when I say that, I mean she is about hearing voices from all over the place to understand how to get smarter, better, do this work in a more collaborative way. And she breaks down barriers and silos, mentions the unmentionables. She's the one that puts them on the table and allows for other voices to put things on the table more than anyone I've ever met.
She's one of the most excited listeners that I know of. It's astonishing to see someone so accomplished, the top of our game, right? I mean, she's just one of the foremost thinkers in the youth allied space. And she gets so genuinely excited when she's in conversation with folks. I mean, she really listens for what she doesn't know, So I find that incredibly inspiring.
Her unique blend of the research, policy, and practice that and leading thinking on that and an intellectual curiosity around that is how to model that for the next generation would be really special too.
If I had my druthers, as we say here in the South, she'd wander her way back to at least to the Eisenhower building, if not the White House.
I want to hear her on NPR.
I'm really looking forward to Karen's next phase in contributing in the way that she wants to and focusing so that we can ultimately ensure that all young people have opportunities to thrive.
If Karen can persuade the powers that be that there is talent and goodness being wasted, that there's a force for good still locked in despair because we haven't invested in their opportunities and supported their hope, and the passion that they have for changing the world once somebody invests in them is profound and extremely valuable. And I think Karen understands that. And if Karen could even be, a link to the young people with that passion, to the people who have the power to invest in releasing that passion and that knowledge, she would be very happy. And we would be very happy.